So the challenge in any organization is, how do you take what's on the inside and match to the outside so that you're having the most efficient growth effort that you can? Because the more your insides don't match your outsides, the more that what you say to the world versus your operating culture, your processes, your brand, all those things, when the inside and the outsides mismatch, then it costs money, time, energy, and attention, and often looks like managing when you're trying to put your thumb on all that stuff. But really what you're doing is just adding extra layers that don't need to be there. And you're also doing subtle things to break trust everywhere, breaking trust among managers, breaking trust with employees, breaking trust with clients, because there's this constant adjusting for the difference between the inside and the outside. So organizations, to thrive, have to have an incredible internal self-awareness that is then translated in an external way of showing up in the world, so that things happen automatically and instinctually. And organizations generally kind of intuit their way to this a lot of times, because most people want to live out of a place of some base level integrity. But the problem is at certain scales, your organization stops being as flexible as it once was. It hardens, things solidify. We call that solidification culture a lot of times, which has both a good side and a bad side. And so our work, what we do with an organization, is we say, okay, great, you have some incredible things that got you here, but they've solidified to a point where they may actually be working against you and creating various ceilings. And we've seen the same ceilings work over and over and over again, or hit, and then we have to work through them, that we've started to build a structure for how to test for them, surface them, and then address them as we go. And the analysis is called the Trust Made Growth Index, because essentially the more that the growth that's happening is driven by trust, the more it's repeatable. And that's what our leaders and organizations want. So we break the Trust Made Growth down into 6 different factors that you see here. Culture is your relationship to your internal world, how your teams interact with each other, how you make the default ways that you make decisions, that kind of core decision engine. Its parallel is community, your relationships to the outside, relationships to clients, customers, prospects, partners, etc., builds that community around you. Value creation is how you deliver on the promise. So it's the actual delivery of the work, the value, the thing that your clients and customers are paying for. That is obviously trust building, the more that it's consistent with what you've externally promised. And the way people start to taste that value creation for trust-based organizations is your point of view, what you talk about, what you share, how you say what needs to happen in the world, your vision, your values, etc. That point of view, as you're exporting it, is a promise to the world of the value that they're going to come find in you. So the stronger that point of view is, the more people are drawn into your value creation, and then your value creation validates your point of view, and it's a positive cycle when it's healthy. And then positioning is just that kind of how you exist within the options that your client or customer has. And it's a structural decision. It's a way of fitting in a space and setting boundaries around who you are and who you're not going to be, and helping people know where the gates are to those boundaries. That's really what sales is here's the boundaries of who we are, and here's the gates that let you into those boundaries. And that same structural reality has to be mirrored on the inside, and that's org design. You have to build the organization so it consistently reinforces your positioning. Now, when you think about those 6 things, as we work with organizations on those 6 things, you can immediately tell that over time, the weight and needs and demands of each of those things shifts. You never get them finished. They're never done, and then you stop. They get it organized for a certain level of growth, say 50 employees or $10 million of revenue, and then it butts up against its next place and its next place and its next place. So the way we frame that when we talk about it with clients, we work with you, is on these grades, essentially. So most of the six factors start in an underdeveloped state. They're just not ready for prime time. You haven't put a lot of energy into it. So then we move to entrepreneurial. And then in that entrepreneurial stage, we would start to recognize creative energy, right? You're trying a bunch of stuff. The problem is that entrepreneurial energy creates a chaotic ceiling where you need culture to break through, some norms, some repeatable habits. And then once things becomes encultured, then that can produce a brand. Then a brand can produce an enterprise-grade repeatable delivery across the 6 factors. The safety lane is really what is a reasonable place for your organization to be today. So many organizations should not be at enterprise grade. That's not the nature of their growth plan. That's not where they are from a scale standpoint. That's not true to sort of where they are in terms of their product and service development. Your organization, one of the things we observe is has that safety lane where as long as factors are within that lane, then healthy stuff happens on repeat. And so our goal is to move you into that safety lane and then also move that safety lane up over time as you move into a larger and larger scaled organization. To show kind of how this looks when we're mapping it out with the clients, we then take each of the 6 factors and we point to where you are based on all of our research against these scales: culture, org design, point of view, community, positioning, value creation. So the 6-factor map on the left is how they all relate to each other. The bigger the footprint of that dotted circle, the more expansive your operation is and should be. We take that same information, we map it vertically on the right, and that's the where you see it up against the safety lane. Same results of the same survey with the same client, just mapped a different way. And then we take this information and we crisscross what we've gathered with you in our analysis and all of our time with you, and we show you in the growth check exactly what that means from really 2 key perspectives. One is the perspective of your CEO. So how exactly should that person be thinking about the culture, the positioning, the point of view, and what are the unique attributes of yours? You see that drawn here for this particular test client that we did this for. And you see again where things are in and out of safety lane. And then what we call the COO dashboard, which is similar, is a tool for what are the pieces that the operations need to be responsible for, and how are they in and out of balance, and what are those balances creating? And you see that here in the example on the right with the stability triad, value creation, org design, and community. These are just a few examples of some of the charting and the analysis that we do in the growth check, and we guide you through not just images on a chart and pictures of related concepts within your organization. We give you specific examples of how those things are showing up in things that your employees have reported back, what we're seeing in your marketing, what we're seeing in your go-to-market plan, and then we take that and we produce your next best actions. Because it may not be a website, it may not be more marketing, it may not be a rebranding, it may not even be a sales effort. Oftentimes the energy, the unlock that needs to happen to get you from where you are to where you're going is much more internal, it's much more embedded in the way the organization works. And if we can help you unlock that, then it produces a stream of really more obvious tactics and easy to implement solutions versus trying to just sort of scattershot on solutions and hoping something works as you're moving into your next era of growth. So this is the kind of the heart of the Trust Made Growth Index. It goes into much greater detail, but we really want to take you through this on this journey. I want to be your guide through this, because I think if you take the time to see how these 6 factors are interrelated in your organization, you're going to get immediate insight into your next move. And you're going to unlock things that you thought, gosh, I thought we understood this, or I thought we had our hands around this, but we kept swinging and missing. This is actually the subtle nuance we need to get to our next place. And that's what Growth Check is all about. It's about stopping and stop spending money on the next big tactic that's supposed to solve all your problems, and get under the hood of where the flow of energy, and the flow of energy in a business is trust, where the flow of energy is going and where is it getting blocked, and how to leverage that for your organizations for what's next. The Growth Check project is a 30-day project. We unlock those accelerations and we look for places where you're wasting energy, time, resources, etc., that appears to be growth oriented but is actually holding you back. And we put your culture back to work. I mentioned at the beginning that the culture can be that double-edged sword, and this project puts that culture back to work for you, so then you can determine what's next for your organization. We'd love to take you on the journey.